also on YouTube. Just type in the Paul C. Dozier broadcast or go straight to Paul Dozier Media. That'll get you there. And I hope you join me. We're going to get started right now. Say hello to everyone. This is Paul Dozier. I hope the music went away. Wait a minute. Let me just make sure. It did. Music went away. Good. Hey, I'm the engineer too. And it's interesting to see the video on one, see the video on the other, see the video on the other one. And anyway, it's Tuesday, April the 20th, 2021. This is show number 17. I am excited to bring you this content. It looks like we have a good feed this time. Yesterday was tragic on YouTube. It was tragic. But I love the experience because when you're willing to pay the price, go through the experiences, learn the lessons, and you make it out on the other side, understanding what the challenges were. Listen, school has already started. I hope you're paying attention. School has already started. And we made it out. We made it through. We have our challenges, but we're having a good time overcoming our challenges. We're learning what we need. And I hope you're learning something from this because as I've been quoting, if you've been paying any kind of attention to me at all, you know that I spend a lot of time talking about the statistics of the condition that minority business owners are in. It's the reason why I can speak with a certain level of confidence when I say that if only 2.2% of all businesses in America are black owned, we have a crisis. I also say that if poverty, straight up poverty, is projected, there were some books in the 70s, and one in particular that I'm thinking about, I think it's The Intentional Dumbing Down of America. I never owned the book, but I saw the PDF online. And there were other works, and I wish I had thought about this before I came on, but it was projected that blacks would be in this condition 60 years ago, 55 or 60 years ago. When you understand how certain things are constructed, and how they're built upon, and I spend a lot of time talking about principles. When you understand the principles, and we're going to talk about that. And the word I really want to focus in on is concept. You've heard proof of concept. Proof of concept. Because the proof of concept, when someone is interested in your idea, gives them the ability to see how well thought out your idea is. Not just your theory, how well thought out your idea is. Well, understanding that the climate has been created for many years. And we touched on Black Wall Street. Well, we touched on Black Wall Street, but I didn't focus in on the negative side of it. I focused in on the side where you can see the nature and the character and the determination and the focus of those ancients, of those people who came before us. And the price they were willing to pay to do something that was completely different. And the chance they were willing to take. And it worked. The proof of concept worked. So it's when you know the principles of how things operate, you can make them work over and over again. That scripturally is called wisdom. When you have wisdom, you can now teach someone how to take your idea, that concept, that product, that service, that thing that needs to be innovated. By the way, over time, everything needs to be innovated. Everything. Because as the generations go by, people communicate differently. So we need to innovate all the time, right? We need to live in a space where we're innovating. So, but the proof of concept is the fact that something worked and you can make it better. I'm going to show you that. Because when you're building a business, or you're building an idea, or you're building a ministry, or you're building a social experiment, or you're creating a new thing called a country, you're coming in with systems and you have proof that your concept will work. That's where people buy in. People buy in at concept level. I'm talking about creators, visionaries. Now, when I say visionaries and creators, those are very abstract terms. A visionary has a term or a job description or job accountability that you can readily recognize. For example, to be a venture capitalist, you have to be a visionary. To be an inventor, you have to be a visionary. I personally believe someone like an architect is a visionary. So there are certain job descriptions that in our 20th and 21st century vernacular that we can understand that can take that very broad term visionary and make it very real. So in other words, if I have a concept, I'm acting as a visionary, and as a visionary, I have to surround myself with people who also believe in the concept. Bishop, good morning, Bishop. Now, scripturally speaking, again, I know every one of you aren't believers of the Bible, so to speak, but I am. I'm unapologetically a believer in the Word of God. For real, for real, for real. Out of the King James Bible, that European king that God can use anyone. I can't explain that to you right now. That take us off in a different direction. But the idea is, in Christianity, they're called apostles. They're people that took a concept that was proven out and furthered the process and improved on it and multiplied the efforts. That's just a principle. That principle works in social, business, and personal situations, circumstances, because they're just principles. Whether you're the CEO or the janitor, the principle, at least today, is that you still need the same air to breathe. You still need the same water. You still need the same fire, and you still come from the same earth. Those are just the principles. As of today, most of our food come out of the ground. At least the good food does. There are genetically modified things but they're still created from things coming out of the ground. You can't get rid of the four elements. So what I'm saying is, when you have a concept, and you're building upon someone else, remember we're talking about innovation. That concept has to be steeped and rooted in something that has already worked. That's what the proof of concept is based upon. So you need to surround yourself with people that can recognize their role, and quite frankly, not to get too far off, because I know I play on the fringes, y'all. I know I do. But some people get it. Some people need to hear it a few times to get it. Some people just flat think I'm crazy. All of them are okay. I think all of them are right. To be quite frank with you. But listen what I'm saying. That's the reason why collaboration is so important. Because no venture capitalist, no social organization is going to take you seriously unless you're coming with collaboration and proof of concept. No bank, no one. Can you imagine going into a bank and saying, I need $3 million for what? You say, I don't know yet, but I know sometime in the future I'm going to need it. I just know I am. Can I just get $3 million? It just doesn't work like that. There's when you're able to bring all the elements together. Finding opportunity becomes easier. But that proof of concept has to be based upon something that historically has worked, and you can prove that you can innovate from it. I truly believe that there is nothing new under the sun. Nothing. And because of that, I believe you can do all things. However, not if you don't do the research. Not if you don't understand the history of a thing. Not if you're not willing to share your recipes. Not if you don't trust anyone. You can't. So therefore, building a business becomes, or a church, or any other type of social organization, becomes impossible because it has to be about sharing information and sharing resources. It has to be. That's what a business is. It's innovating to share your resources with someone else who is in need of your aspect or your concept in their life. It's the only way that a business can work, is that someone needs what you're offering them. So I want to talk to you about what a concept is. And I truly believe this is going to be a short one. But I want to give you an idea of what a concept is. Because it's important. There's something called a business concept statement. The notes will be on YouTube. We're at youtube.com/Paul Dozier Media. youtube.com/Paul Dozier, D-O-Z like zebra, I-E-R, media, M-E-D-I-A. If you want the notes, you can go over there and get the notes. But if you're building a business, the business starts off not with a concept. It starts off with an idea. But to be taken seriously, you have to build a concept. Now, some people think a concept is something that you can, like it goes from, oh, okay, and let me just start writing. A concept is well researched. A concept kind of looks like an executive summary. And the concept, for the most part, the concept summary is expected in the executive summary if you're writing a business plan. So in reality, the concept comes right afterwards. And it takes a couple of pages. So, in fact, let me say it like this. I personally believe the purpose for writing out your concept is to help bring clarity to you in creating your mission and your vision statement. I think you can write a mission and vision statement without understanding your concept, but I think it's better to write your mission and vision statement once you've understood your concept. In fact, I talk to my daughter all the time, the one you can probably see behind me somewhere. I've been using her as an example since she was going to churches with me and sitting in the audience. Hilarious. Anyway, but I talk to her all the time. She's starting her concierge service. It's funny because we're writing a business plan now. We started 2.5 years ago. Just using her as an example because she's used to me using her as an example. She's now, after 2.5 years, just developing her team. And the interesting thing about that is these people are coming to her and have been coming to her asking her when she's going to do something for years. But we would have conversations about, okay, what's the concept? Um, so she spent 2.5 years figuring out, okay, I know what I'm good at, but how does that look in everyday life as it pertains to putting together my own personal business model for a company that is going to serve other people? Because, and this is important, the collaborations are depending on you, just like you're depending on them. The person that does not understand their concept in those collaborations become the weaker link and can cause a certain amount of disruption in the relationship between all the players who are interested in the concept. Because you're not the only one involved with a concept. In reality, all the players should have their own concept that includes your aspect of their business model. Now, we had a faux pas yesterday on YouTube, but you Facebookers, yesterday, hey, you should, we were talking about business models. Facebook is over there. They're right there. Sorry. Anyway, but the idea, I hope you're taking notes because this is really good. It really is. I'm not saying that to toot. I'm just saying. And the reason why I'm being repetitive and trying to put it in different ways because we all learn differently. But we need to get this. This is not, and as you have heard me say, this is not optional. None of these things so far have been optional. That's not my opinion. Every business has a concept. So it's not something you trip over. With the ingredients that we've discussed so far, understanding history, knowing your market, knowing your demographic, collaboration, getting the right mindset, whatever else I've talked about in 16 videos. All these things are different ingredients in building something that can last. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about what a concept looks like, because it's not what you think it is. Well, not all of you, but not all of you. But most of you don't have the right. And again, the notes are there on YouTube. This is based on research. This is not my opinion. The word concept coming out of the Hebrew language, yes, I go that far, is masculine. And this is the beautiful part of it. The beautiful part of it is that not only is it masculine, that's beautiful, which means that it's in your control. In other words, you have to take action. It is a noun. You have to take action, which is a verb, but the noun is in charge of it becoming. And it means, and this is what I love, not to be achieved, not may be achieved. It means achievement. It means to catch up with. Now, I know I'm laying it out there like a pastor because I got a little bit of that in my blood, I guess. But the point is, giving credit to my bishop, by the way, because this is kind of his style of doing things. I kind of stole some of this from him. But the point is, because you know what? Because here's my style. My style is just to tell you about it. If you believe it, fine. If you don't believe it, that's up to you. But I'm learning from my bishop to really care about certain things. Because I really do need there to be more than 2.2% of businesses owned by black people. I really feel like my purpose on life is to see that number tick up to at least 20-25%. I don't feel like I can leave this earth until more people have the mindset to understand that they are owners. Now I'm starting to slip off again because, this gets me. And because I think about when I was a kid running after business owners, meeting the owner of Gino's Pizza in Chicago, meeting successful real estate investors. None of them shared with me anything about being a business owner. Now, it could be because I was an arrogant kid of 18, 19 years old, straight out of high school. Maybe I was 20. Yeah, say about 19, 20 into 21. I came to California when I was 22. Maybe they didn't want to talk to me. I get it because I'm talking to a lot of people right now I don't necessarily want to talk to, but it is my obligation, whether I'm accepted or not, to make sure I at least document in a way that some people that understand the language that I speak, some people understand that language, that they get the information to know that your thinking is off. You are not an employee. You are created to be a business owner. You don't have the information. You didn't grow up thinking that way. You didn't grow up understanding the language of business owners. When you panic, you run to somebody's job. You think about opening up a business, but you don't want to pay the price of doing it because it takes too long. And I'm here to tell you, 54 years old, it doesn't take long. Man, at 54 years old, I can honestly tell you that 5 years goes by very quickly. It just doesn't feel that way when you're young. You need that much time to put out to create and understand your proof of concept. Because you need to know what works. You need to know the achievement. You need to know the conceptualized model that you're thinking about. Amazon went 10 years before turning a real profit. And now Bezos is retired after 20 or 25 years. I do not remember, but he's retired. 10 years, proof of concept, 10 years. Went from a bookstore. And if you ever ordered anything from Amazon Prime or Audible, which I have 5 credits on Audible, and I had to go through 3 different devices, my desktop, my iPad. I started on my phone. I went from my phone to my iPad, which is this thing over here, to my desktop just to cancel it because I already have 5 credits. And then when I tried to cancel, they said, well, you can put it on a 90-day hold. I don't want a 90-day. I want to cancel it. And I went down there, and I had to find the gray box. So it make it hard to find the box because you're used to looking for red boxes, orange. Come on now, blue box. They made the box gray. You know how long it took them to do the research to figure out how to legally obligate people to pay for things? Do you know how much research they had to do to map that out? It's not by accident. To go from dial up and offering books to selling everything. I'm thinking about eBay now. They sell you could buy anything on eBay or even Amazon or eBay. It's crazy. But it took 10 years for Jeff Bezos to have proof of concept, a proof of concept that earned money. He kept putting money into it until it got to a stage where he can capitalize off of that. So it's important to understand that your proof of concept, and you have to be realistic. What I mean by realistic is we in society today want everything to start producing revenue like the week after. You have to be realistic. The money that I earn in my business, I put right back into my business. I have to, because I have to pour into those other elements like education, collaboration, marketing. You know, all these things are very important when you're building a brand. And then some of you might say, "Well, yeah, but you got to pay yourself." Yeah, you know that's what you have a job for. You know that's a job. That's what your job is for. You know, make sure you. But for the most part, you have to put the time in and lay the groundwork. So your concept is a snapshot of what your business model is. So I want to give you an idea of some of the things that are inside of a concept. It's going to sound a lot like an executive summary. And in truth, it is, I believe, a part or an extension of the executive summary. And I hope you're taking notes for real, or you're going to replay this over and over again. But the part that goes on the executive summary is like a sentence or two that summarizes your concept. So you need a description for your so you need a summary for your summary. And let me tell you the thinking behind that. You ever have a goal that was so big that you couldn't explain it? I have. I've had these massive goals. So, and in business, you know, I've heard it from everyone, you know, including the previous company that I represented, to the previous company before that I represented, to you know, and books I've read and that sort of thing. Here's the thing. You shoot for the moon, and even if you land amongst the stars, you know, that sort of thing. That's the mindset that they want you to have. When I say they, I'm talking about those who want to motivate you to think differently. I'm asking you to think a little bit more different than that. I'm asking you to not think in a way that people want you to think. I'm asking you to see yourself as the concept has already been achieved. So all you need to do is take that concept and break it down in eons or in time. And you've heard, you know what that means. That means you have daily goals, weekly goals, monthly goals, yearly goals. Some people have quarterly goals instead of, you know, and then yearly goals. I'm not suggesting that you have goals from, Every second. There's some people that they book every 5 minutes of their life. I don't believe in that. You can say, yeah, but this guy is making $2, $3, $4, $5 million. It's not about the money. The principle. Listen, good or bad, the principles will lead you wherever you're going. There are plenty of people with plenty of money that work the principles and are still unhappy. You have to leave room for the Spirit to lead you. Listen, I appreciate discipline, but my discipline is to the Spirit of God, to the God nature on the inside of me. Sometimes I was talking to a client of mine at 9 o'clock this morning, and we talked, who's also I call her my big sister, who's also my big sister. We're having a good time, and she threw something at me that I had to do on only a couple of days, which what I did, I usually, that's a 2-week job, and because I like to research things, and we pulled it off in a couple of days. I mean, we, still got some work to do tonight, but I like to follow my spirit, because the value that brings to that person's life is more important than my little regimen. That's my family. That's my collaboration. The most important thing to me is not the project, it's the person. And I don't even like people. And, I'm not going to even try to explain that to you, but the person is the most important thing. I'm here to be not a dictator, but to be an example to the people that are in my life. In Christianity, we call that being a witness. It's not about what I like. It's about accomplishing the goals. And you can't accomplish the goals if you're singularly, in my opinion, if you're so focused in on the project that you disregard the people, then you will not have quality people around you. You just won't have quality. And then you can say, well, I don't know why I keep forgetting his name. The guy, Apple, just passed away, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago. Looking at his face. He wasn't a nice guy. He had quality people around him. He paid them very, very well. We're talking about starting something. We're talking about building, a network of people. You have to be focused in on building a team. So having a brief description of your concept is important. This may seem like it makes sense, like it's not. It may seem like it's, well, duh, well, of course. But listen, plenty of people go out there with something that is Steve Jobs. Thanks, Lee. Plenty of people go out there with something that is unnecessary, thinking that it should work because it's their idea. It's not about you. And I think I've been very consistent in saying is you have to find out what your demographic, what your market is interested in, and focus in on the needs of that market and that demographic. So the market need is very important. There has to be a need for the thing that you're creating. If there's no need for the thing you're creating, either you need to look at a different market or put it on the shelf. I think it was James Cameron when he created this movie called Avatar. he had this concept in his mind, and he had been working on this concept for, I think, 7 or 8 years, maybe 10 years, called Avatar. The technology had not been built yet. The technology had to be built before he could create the movie Avatar. Because when he had the concept, the technology wasn't there yet. So there can be a need for something or a desire to have something in a market, like Avatar, so to speak, but the resources aren't there yet. So what do? You build upon your concept. You build upon your team. You get buy-in. You prepare. Some people innovate and create the technology because there's a need, and the need is a self-need, but some people find value in innovating technology to push another idea. They're willing to lose money in one area to gain in another. And I never went to a traditional college, but in college, I believe they call that economies of scale, which is a measurement where there's such a great profit here, you can sustain a loss over here. But there has to be a market need. Because if you try to pull that off with something that's not needed in the market, then there'll be great loss with no gain. Your solution has to be something that fills a void of some sort. I think the reason why I failed in starting a church was because I wasn't doing anything any different than anyone else. Plus, I'm not a pastor. So you have to be, your solution, for you to have a solution, there has to be a problem, and your problem has to fill a void in, your solution has to fill a void in some problem that's out there. In this pandemic, the companies that succeeded and excelled were companies that filled the void. And I don't have to tell you who. Zoom, when we talk about video conferencing, GoToMeeting somehow just crashed and burned. And Zoom came up. A young Asian American who was doing okay, but doing a whole heaven of a lot better in the pandemic. Amazon was doing great, but doing a whole heaven of a lot. UPS fills a void. PayPal he came from WebEx. My God. So these are not theories. This is how people are becoming successful. It's not next week I'm going to be a billionaire. or a multimillionaire for that matter. There's a young man that I really admire, and I talk about him often. I never bring up his name. But I remember talking to him at a function that he threw for a group of people, and I was asking him questions about his family. And even though he talked about his family often, I was just kind of curious. And what I loved about him is he talked freely about not only his family but his wife's family as well. Very successful at a very young age. It was almost like he had something to prove, but not really, because he was inundated with the culture from his father and his mother and his wife's father and mother. Inundated. He has success dripping from his elders. He was destined to be successful if he was paying attention, because they didn't talk like employees. They didn't have that mindset. So he was able to see solutions, not just because of his brilliance, and he is brilliant, but because of how he had been trained to push. He did not want to disappoint his wife's father and mother. He wanted to prove to them that his wife made a good choice in choosing him. Because there were a couple of disadvantages, but not really, in the scheme of things, not really. But there were a couple of things that were not apparent. So he listened to all of the wealth of wisdom that was around him. Not to mention he drew in people and he listened to the right things and that sort of thing, because you're able to see solutions and identify problems. Your concept has to be a solution to a problem. You have to have some kind of analysis on your competition. In other words, don't tell me about burgers and you only eating at one burger spot. I don't want to hear your opinion on all burgers if you've only eaten one burger. Now, that's a strange way of talking about competitive analysis, and there are tools for competitive analysis, but I can look at numbers and processes and business plans, and I can look online and get public information all day long. But there's something else about actually getting involved and experiencing, taking a couple of months, 3-4 months. For me, I'll go to school for it. I've learned about radio and television broadcasting. I was so interested in it, I took a 9-month class. I wanted to know about it. Now, full disclosure, I wasn't excited about going back to school. But I recognized that if I had a desire for something, if you're going to learn it, take some time and learn it. So getting involved and understanding what your market is. I personally believe in immersion. What is immersion? Immersion means someone drops you in Italy in a small town. You have no way in. You have no way out, and you have to learn Italian. Immersion. I believe to understand your market and your competition. Yeah, that's the word that's used. So I'm going to stick with that. And your competition. That the best way to understand them. Sometimes when I was in the car business, to understand a Honda, when you sell Toyotas, so what Toyota would do, and this is true for everyone. So what they would do is when the new models came out, and I don't know if they still do this or not. It's been years since I was in the car business at that level. When the new models came out, what they would do is they would take you off to a different place and have all the competition cars there, and your car, and they would point out the good and the bad of their car, and all the good of your car. I personally, that's good. They would have brochures that would be focused in on your good and their bad, and all. Now that's okay, but I personally like the idea of going and renting. If you sell Toyotas, go rent a Honda for a couple of days. Go test drive it with a top Honda salesperson. Not wasting your time, letting them know exactly what you're doing. Go listen to it from the perspective of the competitor. Not trying to necessarily find anything wrong with it. To me, full immersion in your competitive analysis of anything. You can sit back and listen to someone tell you about the difference between two different types of ministries, or you can go experience them for yourself. Burgers, so it works with anything. You can listen to someone tell you how prejudiced this group of people are, or that whatever. Go to their country. You can listen to people. You can listen to people tell you about how dangerous it is to go to this or that country. Go and see what happens. Jump out the plane. Buy the property with no money down. Try it. I did it 3 or 4 times. Try it. At a certain point, it's good to listen to concepts, ideas, or other people's experience. That's great. But it's a whole other world when you step into it yourself, learn the obstacles, learn the goods, the bads from somebody else's perspective, but you're there fully immersed, involved with the game yourself. And lastly, for tonight, you have to have an idea to get your concept out there. Marketing is in everything. Marketing is in everything. You have to have some sort of marketing plan. The one that we all wish we could have is word of mouth, which is great. I would love to have word of mouth on everything I've done. But the truth is, at least to me, I'm not going to call it the truth. I'm going to say from my experience, the people closest to you are not the people who are going to believe in you. At first, the people closest to you at first with the demographic that I'm talking to, not the demographic that's out there succeeding. But with the demographic that I'm talking to, unfortunately, with the poor level of concern for legacy that's in that demographic right now, which we need to clean up, yeah, your success is not going to come from word of mouth. At the beginning, the reality is, in the African American community, we love winners. We'll buy their clothes. We'll play their music. We want to live where they live. We want to eat where they eat. We want to wear what they wear. We want to drink what they drink. But the people that were there at the beginning, as I've been explaining to you, that saw proof of concept before it blew up, are the ones that are successful. Putting the shoe on the other foot, gingerly, in a way, hopefully, that you'll receive. For the most part, people are only going to treat you with the degree of respect that you dole out. What do I mean by that? If you have a challenge collaborating yourself, if you have a challenge believing in someone when they're first getting started, if you're not sowing into the beginning of things yourself, please don't think anyone's going to treat you any different. All right. Thank you very much, Facebook Live. You always get the closure. I always forget to close out because I like closing out like that. For some reason, I think that's the best way to close out. But for you, of those of you who can hear me over there on YouTube, beloved, I wish above all things that thou may prosper and be in health even as thy soul prosper. And also, I pray that you discover the God in you. God bless you all.